For over 700 years, the Africans' knowledge of math, science, navigation, poetry, music, and nation building skills was so profound they were the envy of the world. Here we are in the core of world history, in the Dark and Middle Ages. Everyone knows that in world history, the Dark Ages was a time when Europe was at its lowest scientifically, mathematically, navigationally, and otherwise. Does Dark Ages mean dark for all the world as it relates to knowledge in science, math, navigation, architecture, writing, grammar, etc.? This article is to delve into the genius of the mind of the black man and woman. Have you ever asked yourself why so many Africans were bought into slavery like no other people in the history of the world? At some point, all people have been slaves, but not to the extent of the black man and woman. Let's see why. From the 7th century to the 16th century, most of Europe was illiterate. Kings and queens could not read or write. The masses were even in worse conditions. History books call the masses condition feudalism. Feudalism, however, is rarely expounded upon. It was slavery. The rich Europeans made the peasants, poor Europeans, work the land year in and year out with little or no pay. Feudalism went from generation to generation. The masses of the people were poor, naked, and out of doors. Europe, as Dr. Leonard Jeffers has coined at this time, was land poor, people poor, and resource poor. Furthermore, was at this time period, Europeans believed one would fall off the earth if they went too far off into the ocean. In other words, they believed the earth was flat. At this time, in some places in Africa, black people were studying algebra, chemistry, geometry, astronomy, anatomy, biology, and many other skills and sciences. Black people came into Spain, southern Europe, under the leadership of General Tarik in 711 AD, 781 years before Christopher Columbus's so-called finding of America. When the black man came into Spain, he found the masses of the people in a wretched state. They had been beaten down by the rich. Therefore, they were not as upset as the rich landlords because of the black man's arrival. Africans fought all the way up to France and were repelled somewhat by Charles Martel, Charlemagne's grandfather. So the Africans decided to stay in Spain and build civilization again as they had done since the beginning of time. Europe was introduced to the rest of the world through the African. China, India, Asia also had great civilizations. Black people traded and interacted with them all. The masses of Europeans were less burdened under Arab and African rule, collectively called Moors, than their own people. We find at the universities of Cordova, Seville, and the world-famous University of Salamanca. Christopher Columbus was not even born yet. He was not even a thought. His teacher, Prince Henry the Navigator, was not even a thought. Why is this history not in school books in detail? It is not in there because black children and their parents are forever supposed to think as a slave, nothing else. At the same time, the kingdoms of Mali and Shanghai with their prime in Africa. The University of St. Corey in the city of Timbuktu was world known for its scholars, lawyers and doctors and mathematicians and chemists and students. Today, history has distorted history so much, we make jokes such as, "You better leave me alone before I knock you back to Timbuktu." Think over that. A once seat of greatness and scholarship, now among black people, is the sin of jokes and mockery. What does that mean? We laugh and joke about the glory of ourselves. However, this is only because we don't know. Ahmed Baba, well, shall I say, Professor Ahmed Baba, was in charge of the world-famous St. Corey University in Timbuktu for over 30 years. Timbuktu was considered by Europeans as the city arched in gold and clothed in education. Ahmed Baba is considered by historians as the greatest scholar, the most extraordinary intellect, and the most prolific writer of 16th century. Under his administration, Sankari became the center of the world's scientific knowledge. The University of St. Corey in the city of Timbuktu was well known for its scholars, lawyers, doctors, mathematicians, chemists, architects, engineers, and other great scholars. In crafts, they put out all kind of things. High standards were required in elementary and secondary schools in order to meet the exacting admission requirements of the university. Around the 12th century, the University of Timbuktu had an attendance of 25,000 students in a city which had a population of 100,000 people. The students came from all corners of the African continent in search of excellence in knowledge and trade. On graduation day, students were given turbans. The turbans symbolized divine light, wisdom, knowledge, and excellent moral conduct. The turban represented the demarcation line between knowledge and ignorance. The knots and the circles of the turban represented the name God. This means that the graduate students knew the divine obligation and responsibilities to be discharged honorably in their communities toward their people. Never be ashamed of who you are. Practically all American history textbooks start in 1492, the year of Christopher Columbus' so-called discovery. In 1492, the Moors, Africans, and Arabs collectively were finally defeated in Granada, Spain after 700 years of residence. That is why history is hardly mentioned in detail before 1492. With a true examination of history prior to 1492, the black man and woman will flood out the pages of history books. We must know history. Otherwise, we will die as a people here in this country. We will think everything we do is new. We will think everything people do to us is new if we don't learn history. We will not know we were free, had our own laws, and did things our own way. We can look into the past and be inspired